I used to do a segment, and the segment would involve one question. It would be after a pay-per-view. So the pay-per-view's on Saturday, Monday morning rolls around. Whose stock went up the most? That was the question. And it was supposed to be like a really philosophical discussion. I would do this opposite Errol Hawani, and we would both go back and forth. But the one thing about that question is, as much as it was intended to be a philosophical discussion for whose stock went up the most, there was more of a scientific approach to actually answer the question. And you couldn't do it on a Monday. That would be impossible, but you could do it by the following Monday. And the way to know after event who gained the most, who got the most traction, is who gets the most headlines the week after. Now, generally on a pay-per-view, 0 is going to be your answer. It wouldn't matter if the world title was contested. Generally, the following week, the answer is 0. You're going to have one day, which is Monday. And that's because of the Ariel Helwanis of the world. That's because of the Luke Thomases of the world that have gone out and made Monday the day of the recap. But the way that an MMA time frame works is you have the match on Saturday. Sunday's a travel day. Nothing happens. The fans are traveling. The media that was there are traveling. The fighters are traveling home. Monday, you will do a recap, but come Tuesday, you turn that page and you move on to what's next, which, by the way, is coming up that very next Saturday. This is the recipe. I lay that out for you because you'd be stunned at how few of people know that. There's not 30 people in this business that could tell you what I just told you because they never stood back and looked at it. But it's a very relevant indicator. UFC 293 had a press conference today. You have what I believe the biggest star in the sport. Now, I'm removing Conor because Conor is not licensed. And he right now is not part of the sport. You have Israel Adesanya, who was the chosen one for the rollout of a brand new continental-wide television deal. They turned to their most reliable star. I went to the headlines today. The 3 top headlines have nothing to do with 293. The top 3 headlines are all Suga Sean O'Malley. There was a piece on there where Chito Vera said that he expects Merab and Sterling to be punished by Dana White for refusing to fight each other, which is a piece about Sean. You had a piece on there about Merab, talking about his willingness and how he believes in still making his case and the 9 in a row. It's a good case. By the way, Merab is doing a great job, but it's still a piece about Sean. Then you have a piece that was Sean himself saying that I knocked Merab out the night that I won the belt by knocking out Sterling. Sterling and Merab are the same guy. I've already beaten him. I've already shown I can beat that stuff. I'm only sharing with you. There's a press conference today, allegedly, with Fury and Ngannou. I got to say allegedly because I tried to click the links and everything. I couldn't get it, but allegedly that happened. And there was a press conference today for the world title fight that's going to be contested with this brand new television deal in an absolutely sold out arena where they brought in their biggest star. Sean O'Malley had the top 3 headlines. And by the way, if I'm being literal, those 3 headlines that I just cited for you were within the first 5 headlines. Within the first 5 headlines, he still got 3 for a fight that happened. And I tell you, the way to know scientifically who got the biggest bounce, whose stock went up, is to look at the next week. I didn't tell you to look at 2 weeks. I didn't tell you to look at 3 weeks because it's never happened. You could go back over history. You will not find a guy that is getting headlines for a fight that he had 3 weeks ago. It's never happened. It's happened once. It's happened today. It's happened with Suga Sean. He would sit in that pool alone. Like if you were a data nerd and you wanted to go find it, you'll find it. But you'll find guys over the course of the week. You're looking at one. But 2 weeks, you got a really small pool. And I'm talking about you're only going to need one hand. Week number 3, you had 0 until right now, Suga Sean. And what does that mean? I mean, what do you want to do with that, right? Like, there's been breakdowns of the top stars in the flyweight division. Breakdowns of the top stars from the bantamweight division. And their numbers are very different, but they've also had less time. The women's division would be another great example. They've had less time. When did they start? It was 2013? 2012? That's not that long ago. And that was just for them to have the ability to compete as a sex. Now you got all the different weight classes. They're doing main events. The women's headlined UFC 200, just for example. I'm sharing with you that when you start to break it down and you start to look at it that way, Sean O'Malley doesn't go into that category. He is not one of the biggest stars in the bantamweight division. That would not be the appropriate way to word that. Sean O'Malley is a star. Hard stop. I don't need to add from the bantamweight division. Sean O'Malley is a star right now in the UFC, according to the headlines from the .coms that stay alive with one thing, your clicks and your interests. They have algorithms for who goes to the top, who stays there, and when they come down. Sean has 3 of them in the top 5 today. That's a stunning revelation. And I bring it to you because there's only been a couple of fighters throughout history who can draw on their own. In the world of boxing, it was said that De La Hoya and Mike Tyson were the only 2 through history. Now, that's an old quote I'm giving you. I think that you would need to amend that to add Floyd Mayweather. I think that you would need to amend that to add Conor McGregor. But you get my point. And as the sweepstakes is going around and the battles and the position are going on for who's next for Sean, the politics and the bureaucracy of, well, what's best for business? What's going to draw? Some of those same factors and motivators aren't at play here. It appears if you want to have a draw and you want attention and you want to get out there and you want to do a house and you want to do a radio, you want people's focus and you want media and you want support, the opponent is less important. It seems like the key is to have Sean.